Welcome to the Period Besties Podcast with Stasha and Katie. Think about it as chatting with your best friends about all the TMI stuff you've never talked about before with two period coaches who've been helping hormones collectively for over 20 years now. I'm Stasha.
And I'm Katie, and we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like in the world of menstrual coaching. From puberty to menopause and everything in between, we're here to show you how period coaching can save the day. We'll share practical tips and information you can put to immediate use to improve your hormones and happiness.
We're removing the mystery, ending the taboo, and shining a light on just how powerful period coaching can be.
So whether you need period coaching or are considering becoming a period coach yourself, these episodes are going to help you. We'll share stories, coach live on air, and bring smart, savvy guests to share their wisdom too. Let's start today's episode.
Welcome back to the Period Besties Podcast. We are doing our Christmas in July funny period stories, or at the very least, some period stories that will help remove the shame and taboo from our future generations. So we're out here sharing our period stories with you, and in hopes that it will lighten the load, make you feel a little less alone, a little less isolated, have a little bit more fun, and maybe look back and have a giggle at some times that were less than fun at the time. But hopefully we can all have a giggle together. You can feel a little less alone and isolated, and we can all come together and get rid of this stinking taboo. So today we have the lovely Anne with us, who is going to share some stories and chats. And we just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So one of the things that we have talked about on this little series we've been doing has been our first period, or like our first memory of our periods. So why don't you kick us off with a little, what do you remember from those very first periods or first days?
I don't recall my first period, but I recall the first time I learned about the pads. So context is I was born, raised in Vietnam, so school there is a little different. Of course, we didn't have sex ed, and I think it was grade 4 or 5 where during a break, all the boys had to leave the room, and somebody else from somewhere, they weren't from our school, came in with a bag of pads and would give each girl like a few, but they didn't explain what it was, and they just left.
All right.
So I only learned about it because some of the girls in my class already had periods that they knew. And so they would start telling each other what this is for. And I remember when the boys came back in, everybody was so like confused, but also they were so curious because in their minds, they're just like, why did all the girls get gifts and we didn't? It just looked like cookies or something. And yeah.
Oh, wow. What a day. I guess thankfully you had some people there who could let you know what was going on. Although I feel bad for those first few girls.
Yeah, I wonder how they learned. Yeah. So ever since then, I knew that one day, soon enough, I will bleed, and this is how it's going to work.
Oh my goodness.
Here we did something similar where I grew up, but they showed us a movie and then gave every girl like a little lunch bag, like brown paper bag with pads and different information in it. But still, they separated us. The boys had to go in one room, but they didn't tell the boys what they were doing. And then they came back, asked us all these questions. We had no idea what to say. And I only remember the movie so vividly because the girl who got her period was named Katie, and that's my name. So I was like bright red, even though it wasn't me watching this movie.
What was the movie?
It was just like Katie got her period. Like it was kind of like the story of like how this young girl got her first period. And then that's how they talked about it. And they just gave everybody this brown paper bag with pads in it. But then the whole idea was to go home and talk to your parents or your mom and ask questions. But yeah, same thing. Boys came back in, asked us all these things. And they were jealous too because we got to watch a movie.
So what was it like in Vietnam? What kind of resources did you have?
Yes, my generation, I think, yeah, it was all pads. Even now, because I've sought out all of the period things, and it's very difficult to find tampons. And I tried them, and then I learned that you're supposed to have an applicator where you shoot it up, but we don't have that. We'll just shove it in, and yeah.
Depends on what brand you're
Uh,
buying. I mean, here in the States, we have them with or without, depending on
mm,
more plastic or less plastic or feel comfortable or that kind of thing. So you can kind of pick which works for you.
right. We have, I think, one brand of tampons and then 20 brands of pads.
I was talking to somebody else from Vietnam or maybe it was Thailand who, and this was ages ago, but they were saying that the pads were mentholated. Like they had an herbal smell, like menthol, mint kind of smell to them. And she
Mm,
was just shocked because that, it was like, you don't, well, at the time anyway, you didn't have those in the States. And she was just like, oh my God, this is so crazy.
yeah, I can imagine that. I don't think I've seen it here, but because there's so many brands, they try to stand out by adding flavors.
Yeah, that probably, I mean, I know they do that here, but they try and make you feel like you need it. Like, oh, you smell terrible. You need to get these pads so that you don't smell, like they try and basically like
Oh.
shame or embarrass you into getting these like scented pads because God forbid you smell like, I don't know, bleeding blood. Yeah, it's just it's like an attempt to shame and embarrass rather than she was saying that she
Mm,
found it was really helpful for cramps, like whatever the herbal combination that they were using. She was like, actually, it kind of felt like it eased the cramps a little bit. And I was like, oh, that could be interesting. Like if it was an herbal concoction that could help ease pain, that would be nice. But no. In the States, it's just, can we embarrass you into buying a more expensive version?
Yeah.
mm.
What's the conversation now with the younger generation? Is it similar or are more people kind of talking about it?
I assume now that I think this is the first time I hear people here talk about sex publicly, that they probably know more now than they did before.
Yeah.
The internet's going to do that, right? You can actually
Yeah.
find resources and listen and ask questions and Google things.
Hmm.
So what was it like after your first period and looking around and trying new things? Anything else interesting or that you remember?
I remember, well, having accidents, and it was pretty horrible because in high school we would all had to wear uniform, which is the traditional like Vietnamese dress, which was all white. And because it's all white and it's kind of sheer, you had to wear white underwear. So if you bleed, it's just bright red. So that happened a few times. And then I think it was so common that whenever we would see a girl with a jacket around her waist, we know what happened.
Wearing all white?
Yeah.
That's
That's rough.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that tennis players the female tennis players were fighting because I think it's Wimbledon, like you had to wear whites. And then women were like, look, no, because all of these reasons, but including periods, you have got to stop insisting on us wearing white skirts. There has to be another option as a woman.
Yeah. Like red skirts.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, literally
Hmm.
any other color would be great. But though, to be fair, that's why people end up doing things like the woman who ran the marathon and started getting her period and just was like, forget it. I'm not going to stop. So she just kept going and just bled. She was like, I did my best, but it was a marathon and you can't stop to do anything about it. And everyone was all aghast. She was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. This is what it's like. This is being a woman. It's just part of the process. So get on board.
And she would have lost.
Yeah.
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 That takes time. And you have to like run to CVS or whatever. Like try to find a bathroom. Like, no way. Oh my goodness.
I'm
So
imagining if like I'm running and like I'm bleeding from my nose, I will keep running. Nobody would say anything. Yeah.
Especially because like marathons are so personal, right? You're always trying to beat your best time, or you're trying to, even if you're not competing against the other people in the marathon, you're competing against yourself. And to train for something that's so big and takes so long and be through it, and then to have to make that decision on whether or not you stop just because of this thing where she obviously was fine. I would have been crippled onto the street crying, but she was fine. So why would you stop? Keep going, right? Sometimes we have to play. It's just how it goes. There was a Chinese Olympic swimmer who said the same thing. She was like, yeah, I had my period today. It was not my best day, but I still competed and I did well. I think she came in like second. So it was just like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, it's part of the process. So
Speaking of swimming, I did swim a lot, and I had a friend who also swam, but competitively, and she revealed to me that whenever she had her period, she would take a magic pill so that she wouldn't bleed. And I thought it was a magic pill until I'm like 20 something, and I discovered that's just birth control.
yeah, I think that's what a lot of high level athletes end up doing is like a depot shot, which, by the way, if you took the depot shot, there is a lawsuit. You could get money if you ever took the depot shot. Anyone listening, just Google that. But yeah, I think a lot of the athletes, that's what they did. They just did like back-to-back birth control or something that basically eliminated their period until they would get a breakthrough bleed, which, rough. But yeah.
I'm curious, like, what's the conversation with you and your friends now? Do you talk about it at all? Is it a little bit more open, or is it still something most people don't necessarily like talk about?
Yeah, I don't think I've heard anyone talk about their period. I'm the only one I know who just announces to people that I'm PMSing, I'm on my period. And yeah, my partner pokes at me sometimes, says I'm like, people don't need to know that, but I insist. You must know how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not feeling like yourself, might as well just tell somebody, like, this is why.
Yeah.
I mean, don't ask how I'm doing if you don't want to know the answer.
Yep.
Very true. Very true.
Amazing. Anything else that you would like to share with us? Or a little piece of wisdom you've gained?
I thought of something that's not funny. It's kind of sad. So I don't know if I want to share that.
I'm sure there's somebody else out there that's probably going, no, I am the only one. So feel free.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, here goes. I was thinking, because actually, I thought it was interesting. I grew up Buddhist, and now I know that it's the same across organized religions, where when you're on your period, you're not supposed to do certain like spiritual things. So that's also what I grew up learning is if I'm on my period, I'm not to go to pray or be in front of the statues. Yeah, that's a lot of, growing up Buddhist is weird because they explain being a woman having to bleed or give birth is because you have less good karma in total, like in your past lives, that now you're born a woman.
Yeah, that's similar across some other religions as well. And yeah, I've seen that come up a few times. I remember when I was in Bali and they were like very insistent, you can't go to see the temples if you have your period. And I just thought, do people really know that? Like, what if you didn't see the one sign or you didn't hear anything or you're a tourist or something? And then I assume the locals, because they grow up with it, that's just normal. So they observe it. But just really interesting. I don't know. It just made me think, really? How do people find out? How do they know? How do you know if you don't read every sign coming in, you wouldn't know? I mean, when I was in Jerusalem, I had on a dress that didn't have full sleeves, and so they handed me a shawl. So it was like somebody's there looking out, but it's not like there's somebody at the gate going, "Do you have your period?"
I'm thinking of my mom. She's very Buddhist. She's a monk. And she's, I guess, rebellious. So she would just go and pretend she's not having her period right now because nobody asks.
And like, how are they going to know? I guess what happens if you're there and you have your period? Is that bad for your karma? Or I don't know. I'm curious. What's the negative part of that?
Good question. I don't know enough. I know my mom rebels because she also doesn't see a point. It's just like some other thing that's been taught and she doesn't agree with. Yeah. But I imagine maybe there was somebody there taking notes. of who's supposed to be there on their period right now.
Yeah, like tracking
Yeah.
everyone going to the temple. Back in the day, I'm sure.
Yeah, you've been here 4 weeks in a row. That can't be possible. One of those weeks you had to have your period. So
Yep.
I don't know. You've angered the gods. I mean,
No, I'll have to, I'm just like curious myself to look into that. It's really interesting. I know, again, it's not just Buddhism, but I just wonder what they've told women would happen.
It's something along the lines of like, it's dirty and this is like a sacred place. You're not supposed to.
yeah, that's what most religions did. I've said this before, but I think personally, I think a lot of this was just back pre-patriarchal religion, women, especially pre-industrial revolution, when most people got their periods around the new moon, most, they would have probably just gone and relaxed. The old versions of the red tent, kicked back. Please don't burn the village down, guys. We're going to go relax for a couple of days. We'll be at the spa. See you in 3 days, right? And then the men got mad and decided it was exile, not a spa retreat, and just rewrote this tradition. Like you can see it in things like Judaism, where there is a tradition of going to the baths. It probably started off as like going to the hot springs, having a nice spa day, and you see in a lot of traditions, hot springs, bath rituals, steam room, saunas, these kinds of things. But there's a lot of traditions that's very common in. And you got to imagine that probably felt really great back in the day when you had your period. And so you would go hang out in the hot springs, and then somehow it just got twisted into, instead of relaxing retreat, you're in exile now and you have to be miserable about it. And wrote into those patriarchal religions that this is not a good thing, that you're actually in exile and dirty and being dismissed. But the reality of the situation was pre that, most women did go and have a little hangout or a little bit of relaxation. They weren't working or stressed or being, made to do anything. It was just a natural part of life. So I do think our organized religious writings did a massive disservice to what was probably a nice kick-ass retreat weekend.
We need to bring that back. We need to bring back the no work. Let's go hang out at the spa. I'm totally down with that.
Yeah, this is why I have a calendar block for a week every month where you can't book in. My own personal retreat weekend.
Yes.
All right, any parting thoughts or comments?
I'm thinking of, you said like any wisdom. And right now, I don't know if it's wisdom, but I really enjoy free bleeding with the help of period panties.
Mm-hmm.
Also feel great. I'm not producing more plastic.
Yeah, that's one of my pet modules in period coaching school is green menstruation, where we go through all sorts of reusable options, which there are a lot more than I think most people know of. And free bleeding is one of the things that we talk about too in there. And it's amazing to see students go, you know what, this totally changed my perspective. Or I was using a cup, but because of this, I realized there was more options and things that I liked better. Or I thought cloth pads were really just gross, wet, sopping messes. I didn't realize that they had made strides in the cloth pad technology over the years. And it's just really cool to see people make those switches into things that are more comfortable for them. Like instead of using an internal method, being like, I'm going to just stop using internal methods completely. Or I loved this and now there's an even better version of it or whatever. So I'm with you on that. I like a good reusable product. It's near and dear to my heart.
Is that something that's sold in stores there, or you buy it online and it gets shipped? I'm just curious about shopping there for these types of things.
Right now here, you can't buy any of this. I bought these when I was in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah. I saw some here, but they're very thin because they're supposed to work with like something. So if you're sleeping and you tend to leak, then maybe it'll help, but it's not as good as,
yeah.
I have a pair like that. They're just kind of a black cloth inside, and they're really just meant to be like a liner, a real light spotting day or an extra barrier. But they're hilarious, and they have, I don't know if anyone's watched Parks and Rec, but Leslie Knope, and it says ovaries before broveries on it.
That's funny.
They make me giggle every month. Which I personally think your period supplies should make you giggle. I also have a cloth pad that the backing has vampires on it because I just thought vampires would be hilarious.
Indeed.
I love that you got those when you were in Canada, though. That's a smart buy.
Yeah, they're nice. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to tell us a little bit about your business, yourself, where people can find you in the world.
Currently, I've been working as a tech/systems person. I do a little bit of coaching, consulting here and there, but I don't know where I'll end up yet in the near future. So we'll see.
Nice. I love it. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you have your own period stories or comments, please feel free to email us, slide into the DMs. We'd love to hear it. And perhaps we'll do this again with some new faces. So maybe you'd like to jump on yourself one day. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bresek Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties Podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review, nothing less than the best for us besties, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bresek, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebresek.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.